Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Resilient Riches. Today, we have Chad Price that's going to talk about what it means to take your sports career into the business world, what it means to look at your fans and create a marketing strategy and a business strategy around your fans. He's written one book. He has another book that's being written right now called Fans First. The first one was Preparing for Battle, but after you get into battle and you built all your fans, you got to talk about how you can create a strategy around your audience, around your market, and around the people that know and care about you. Chad, we're really excited to have you on the podcast today. I know you've been doing the podcast tour, so we're happy that you squeezed us in, and we're really looking forward to this conversation. Can you give us a little background about you, how you got here, and then I have a bunch of questions for you, but I'll start with you.
Sure. And first off, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate you guys, gracing me as a guest on your show.
Let's see how it goes first before you thank us too much.
I checked you guys out before, so I really like father-son duos as well. So I'm a big family guy.
I got to say that Yair started the business, so we call it a son-father. Some people have trouble getting their heads around it, but,
there you go. I like that even better.
Mixed it up a little bit.
Yeah, I can see the supportive family energy, and I really admire that in people. So I just start off with kudos to you guys for having that relationship. But yeah, I mean, I've been in entrepreneurship now for probably close to 15 years. I graduated from Rice University, where I was an athlete there, went into corporate America trying to really figure out, what I wanted to do in my life. Obviously, I had to cover the bills. I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and kind of that corporate America journey that I went on initially after college really kind of sealed that concept for me. I knew what it was to be in corporate America, so it wasn't any kind of doubt for me to take the other path. So in 2012, I started this fitness company called Kettlebell Kings. I also started a nail salon at the same time. Really kind of jumped in both feet into entrepreneurship, really trying to build a brand and then also do what I had to do to kind of cover everyday day-to-day costs. So I looked at the nail salon as kind of a cash generating machine, and I looked at Kettlebell Kings as a digital community that would take some time to really build a following and a global kind of presence in that space. At the time, there was no real companies that were taking advantage of the coolness, or let's say kind of the lifestyle aspect of the kettlebell. I think it has a little more of a distinctive following than, let's say, a dumbbell or a barbell, for example. And we could notice that, pretty early on in the company that, people really flocked to this as just a centerpiece for a health and wellness community.
You saw a need, and you saw something, you knew it was going to be innovative, and you went, let's go all in on something like that. I know there was the Smart Bell. Did you hear about the Smart Bell that tried to come out of Harvard, and that didn't go anywhere?
Yeah, I mean, there's always been a bunch of them. We had several designs that we never even came out with because I think we really understood the community better than anyone else. At this point, if you're a new kettlebell provider, let's say, you're going to be hashtagging Kettlebell Kings to try to get in front of the largest audience. But we knew that there were, let's say, different communities that already existed that were rabid enthusiasts around this product. So you have like the kettlebell sport community, you have hardstyle community, you got CrossFit. You kind of have these different cultures that have already been created. And our goal was to kind of bring them all together as one, to remove any of this kind of political division on, which form was the best or which technique was the best, and really see that everyone was using this tool to better their lives, and that anyone could start this journey, whether you were, a small kid, or if you were, an elderly person that's looking to rehab. I'm not sure if you guys seen the commercial, but, you have that commercial of the old man lifting the kettlebell up. So, he's pretending it's his grandson. So he's training by lifting a kettlebell.
Dad, you know what the kettlebell is, right?
My oldest son has a gym here in New Jersey, so I go there 3 times a week. So he has pointed out to me the kettlebell, and I have used it. I can't train with my son; he's too expensive for me. But
different son.
I will say, if you are looking for a tool to get into that's kind of like a minimalist type of approach as well, kettlebell kind of can cover all your boxes. It's one of the tools. I got into it, and I even kind of started the company because after I was tired of, let's say, training for competitive nature, I really had to figure out, okay, how am I going to exercise for the rest of my life? What type of routine can I handle, day in, day out for 30 years versus kind of what I was doing previously is, pushing every day to the max, really trying to pack on as much muscle and speed as I can to compete. And kettlebells really allow you to do that because they have so much, reference to, let's say, natural movements that you have in life. When you're going through life, you're going to use momentum and you're going to use the entire chain of your body a lot more to do things than you ever will kind of isolating or, sitting down on a bench and doing different things. So you get more of a full body functional workout if you do kettlebell routines and other routines. And for some
So
people,
I
that's much
never
better.
really, yeah, I never really thought of just using the kettlebell. I mean, that's what you're promoting. That's what you're suggesting, that you in your workout. I mean, I never really thought that would be the only tool that you would use, but that's what what your whole exercise routine is based on, is just on the kettlebell.
You can definitely do that. So like for me, personally, I supplement in a lot of different exercise routines. So I would never tell anybody like, hey, you should only use a kettlebell. I think there is good cardio exercises that you can do. There's good mobility and stretching exercises, yoga. There's tons of different techniques that you can use to exercise your body. But if you're talking about resistance training and using weight, and then trying to say, okay, well, when am I going to get the most efficient workout for my time? The kettlebell is up there as,
Oh.
one or two on that list. And it's
Yeah.
because the weight's not balanced. It's more like you would lift something that's regular. A lot of people would comment, this reminds me of lifting like a grocery bag and I can carry my groceries better. Well, it is kind of like a grocery bag, except it's made out of iron. And it does kind of have that same momentum at the bottom, heavy type of aspect that most things have that we actually carry in real life. So you will see that kind of translate a lot quicker than you would if you just started doing bench press.
Yeah,
That's
well,
right.
I find the kettlebell also to be like full functionality, and that whole switch from strength to functionality
Yeah.
has been such a huge move, a huge game changer in the fitness world. I worked in the fitness world. I put myself through college. I got into financial advisory and insurance because one of my fitness clients actually got me into it, which is like a funny thing how it kind of goes full circle. So I get exactly what you're saying. And I feel like the fitness trend went from big and bulky to what's better looking is more functional. Like for women, they always say, I don't want to look butch. Like I don't want to look all broad.
Yeah.
And for men, my brother loves bodybuilding. He loves that big bulk. But for me, it was like, okay, well, I want to be the fastest. I don't need to necessarily be the strongest. And I really don't want to get hurt. And that's
Yeah.
really like, for me, that's my whole basis for fitness. So you found this concept of the kettlebell and you found this innovation. How did you implement and turn it so quickly to building this community around it when there were other people also trying to do the same thing? Like, what was your secret sauce that you did that made this multi-million-dollar success?
Well, I think that goes to kind of the title of my first book, which is kind of preparing for battle. I think the good thing that I did was I found two business partners to work with that believed obviously in our abilities overall versus let's say expertise in the kettlebell. So when we started the company, nobody knew anything about kettlebells. It was a complete research project for us to learn. And through that journey, we found organizations that were partnering or let's say passionate about the kettlebell itself. And then we would partner with those organizations, whether that's through sponsorships, cross promotional material, providing them with equipment. There's so many different ways we could support those types of organizations that we really started kind of that ground based kind of guerrilla marketing from the very beginning. So showing support for, let's say, a 10-person competition in the middle of Minnesota somewhere doesn't really do much for our overall sales, but it does a lot for generating content, for reporting on that, for getting kind of those other smaller communities to see that we appreciate people who are just kind of getting together and working on their health and wellness routines. So it wasn't like we were trying to partner with LeBron James and take we're the luxury brand that only the premier athletes work for or work with. We're the brand for everyone. We're the community that is accepting of everyone. When you come here, you can put all your other problems aside, whether that's political, religious, race issues, and you could really focus on how you can use this tool to better yourself.
Yeah, I also felt that the kettlebell address the need of pain. And I actually did a study on this on college. It was like one of my research papers that it was all about heel pain with obesity and like how you can tie obesity in. And I did a study that, for example, it was like cigarette smokers that felt pain when they would smoke cigarettes were much more likely to stop smoking cigarettes than people who didn't feel pain smoking cigarettes, which is an obvious concept. But it was heel pain would then lead to back pain and then lead to not working out at the gym. And then because of that, then it would lead to more. And the kettlebell was actually one of the products that was the recommended for heel pain, back pain, hip pain, things like that, so that somebody can continuously exercise and from there would lose a lot more weight that way to keep them motivated, because if somebody gets hurt at the gym, it's over. And that's really what the model or the vibe of kettlebells really were, which I love what you're saying. So you build this community, and what in your book you talked about, yes, your story and how you did it. There's new functionality and functional equipments that are coming out. How do you advise? I know you do a lot of consulting now. How are you advising companies to build similar style to what you did? Because there's always new trends. There's always new. I wouldn't just say only in fitness, but in everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even when we first started, we knew we were like, okay, eventually our product is going, if it's not already, it's going to become a commodity, right? Like, we're not going to redesign a kettlebell that's structured so much differently and patent that so that no one can ever compete with us. So the idea becomes more around how do we provide value to the community on a consistent basis, create some type of feedback loop that we can receive more information about how we're doing, and then continuously improve from there. And that comes from my background in sports specifically. You know, I tell people all the time, it's easy for me to look at things and want them to get better on a continuous basis. I never really look at anything and say it's there. It's always like, okay, well, how can we make this better? You know, the reference I give people is in football, when you play football, you watch practice every single day from the previous day. There's never a time in which you don't watch the previous day's practice, and you're not watching the previous day's practice to celebrate how well you did or how many balls you got. You literally watch the mistakes you made every single day. So it's like a constant evaluation of how did I do, how could I have done better, and continuing to do that. And that's how I look at the community as well. So when we started Kettlebell Kings, we didn't even design kettlebells. Our original idea was, we're going to consolidate every great kettlebell from around the world. So, we're going to bring bells in from Spain and Germany and all these different places to one central location. Going through that process, we realized, like, okay, these bells are crap and we could do a better job ourselves. And that led us to designing our own kettlebell. Started with one series, and then ultimately we're not selling anyone else's kettlebells, and we have 4 series of our own, and we're selling additional ancillary products with our brand on that as well. So I think it's the mindset that we have for the approach.
Like, what's the monetary? What's the actual number?
Like, we probably had over 300 SKUs or something like that.
Yeah, and how many did you sell total? Like, how many products?
Like how many, like in like the numbers we were doing, like when we sold, like we were on the Inc. 5000 for 4 years consecutively. I think in our last year we were doing like around 6 million in sales.
Right.
And that's mainly United States. So the reason that we sold, or the reason that we were acquired, was for our international expansion efforts. It takes quite a bit of inventory, if you can imagine, to sell that many kettlebells. And
it's not easy to ship. It's not easy.
It's definitely not easy to
ship.
I
just ask like a basic question. Maybe other listeners will be like, what's the difference? Like you said, you get kettlebells from Spain and Italy. What's the difference? Like, to me, a kettlebell is a kettlebell. It's a bar and a weight on the bottom. Like, I don't see, like, what's the difference between from an Italian one or a Spanish one, or the one that you said it was crap? Like, what makes it crap? To me, I look at the kettlebell, I'm going to lift it, I'm going to do my exercise, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to address it in Italian or Spanish or whatever.
That would be appropriate if you could speak in Spanish.
Sure. Yeah, there you go. In each language.
Maybe it'll say, have a little mouth on it or something, it'll talk back to me. You could do a cartoon like that.
Those are the smart bills that are coming out.
Exactly.
No, this is like in Harvard. This guy, I remember he was pushing it on the wrestling community, and everyone was like, Yeah, this is not very smart. Like,
Yeah, it's not
just because you're
very
from
good.
Harvard doesn't make you smart. Like, look at
Not
the
smart, smart bell.
Yeah.
So if
But
you could just, just
sure. The analogy I give people all the time is it's like a sword, right? Like if there are old rusty swords I can give you to go, if you had to go to battle and you were going to go fight for your life, I could give you an old rusty sword, or I could give you one of Valerian steel that's been ergonomically crafted,
that's
perfectly
the one I
balanced,
want.
right?
I want
Like,
the
and
Valerian
that's the
steel.
one I want, right? And that's the one that you're going to use the most. And you have enough deterrence to not work out. The last thing you want is a piece of equipment that doesn't function well. And most people don't even realize when their equipment is a deterrent to them. They don't realize that, like, if you had a better piece of equipment, you would enjoy your workout more. You wouldn't have
I'm not so sure about that.
you for some to a degree, right? To a percentage for everyone. But you wouldn't have necessarily, let's say, calluses building up on your hands. You wouldn't have even injuries, because if something's not perfectly balanced or perfectly weighted, you're using different weight than you think you're using. All of these things can cause basically uh, discomfort during your workout. So when you're working out with a tool that's perfectly balanced, that's world renowned, that's ergonomically designed, and you're talking about, we started with one kettlebell and then millimeter iterations over the course of 6 to 7 years, in making those changes based off of feedback, based off of how many reps people do at competitions. So you can literally have someone, who's done, let's say, 150 reps going after a world record, use your bell and have the ability to do more. And so then you implement those changes. And it's a constant research loop that we have going with.
All right. So I have two follow-up questions for that. So number one is your target market like those people that are like exercising professionally and working out professionally? You're not talking to somebody like myself that's just, trying to work out once in a while. I go to the gym 3 times a week, which I'm very proud of, actually.
Unless you're traveling, you don't work out at that point. Just the public disclaimer.
No, there was no need for that kind of comment. Yeah.
Chad,
there was no need for that. There was no need for that.
Chad has no problem with this.
No, there was no need for that. But it sounds like that you're not talking to someone like myself. You're talking to somebody. And how much? And the second question I had was, how much is a kettlebell?
It's both. So to answer your first question, it's definitely people like yourself. There are more people like yourself than the high end enthusiast who is going to notice all of the details that we put into it. But it's also because you're getting put into a community of information. So one of the biggest deterrents for people to buy a kettlebell, this is not it's not an impulse buy. People don't really just see it and pick it up. It's something that you think about. It's going to literally outlive you. So it's something that's going to last in your home. It's going to be a part of your family forever.
That wasn't called.
Or until you get rid of it.
My birthday.
I think the gist of it is that if you design a community, and like one of our models is fit for royalty, if it's made for that, it gives you the best chance to feel like you're in the right place. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to make everyone have that sense that you've been empowered to achieve whatever you're trying to achieve from a health and wellness perspective. And just by purchasing this one iron shell, you can get access to a much larger community of people who want to help you also do that.
But I'm going to the gym. I'm not gonna buy that equipment for me in the house. I don't have any equipment in my house. I'm going to the gym. I'm going where all the equipment is. I don't need to.
We got a lot to go over. You're not trying to get fitness.
But this is basic stuff.
I love fitness, so we could talk fitness literally the entire time. So it's totally up to you guys. But
how much is a kettlebell? How much is it?
It just depends, like if you're talking about like a 35-pound kettlebell, it can be, a little over $100, let's say. But that's going to differ depending on the quality you get. You can get, very cheaply made iron kettlebell that has, chipping paint and burrs and seams on it from Academy or Dick's Sporting Goods, probably for like $40, but you're never going to use that. You're going to pick it up, you're going to use it a couple of times, and then that's going to be a tool that you decide to just leave in the corner. Whereas if you get a kettlebell,
like King's kettlebell,
like a bad treadmill almost, but if you get something that actually feels good, you're going to want to use it, and there's going to be a abundance of material because you're now in that community that gets put, in your social feeds, emails. We have free weekly workouts for everyone. So it's more than just the kettlebell. The kettlebell is kind of the starting point or the centerpiece, but you could also be a person who is a jump rope enthusiast and just wants to, have something for strength training. Well, we have jump rope training along with kettlebells. We have golf training along with kettlebells, basketball training,
Oh,
kettlebells for
That
physique.
think of the kettlebell like a
Yeah,
golf club.
no, I understand.
yeah,
That
It
you
that,
just
actually made
yeah.
it
That's a
more.
evolves
good. That's
so
another
much
good
over
analogy.
time, and the
Yeah,
weight and the balance.
No,
and
I
so,
get it. I get
But
it.
okay, so let's get back out of the fitness world from you two fitness gurus,
yeah.
back into business, which is the goal. So number one, how'd you build such a resilient brand? I mean, obviously, once you start getting bigger and bigger, other people tried to attack you. Like, what was your genius behind being bulletproof?
One of them was the fact that we didn't see ourselves as the expert, and a lot of other companies do. So, a lot of other companies, they try to take this position, especially in the fitness space, of this is the way that fitness is, and they're just wrong. They only have one perspective. I don't want to name names, but like CrossFit has its own perspective of what exercise is, and that's not exercise. That is a form of exercise, but that does not encompass all exercise. And so I really think that that was one of the things that brought more people into our community. Was there are people that use this for strictly therapeutical reasons. There's people that use this for rehab only. There's no meathead side of it. And our goal is to bring all those people together and provide them with the highest level of equipment and the highest level of information to achieve their goal, versus trying to establish or create some type of division in the fitness world on how things should work. We had people who were counter to that, to that kind of approach to it, and especially early on. But when they saw the genuineness of what we were doing, I'll give you an example. There's kettlebell sport competitions in which they believe that the way that you lift a kettlebell is by maximizing efficiency, not expelling as much energy as you need to, and literally trying to get the most reps out of an exercise that you can in a time frame. Well, that's not the same if you're training for football.
Yeah, of course.
You're trying to make it hard. Actually, you're literally using the muscle on the way up and the way down on purpose to make it harder, because you're trying to build muscle, versus I'm trying to use momentum and let my arm relax on the way up. There's different strategies for different goals.
Yeah.
Well, initially they're fighting each other as two separate communities. We come and we put a competition together that highlights the differences and brings those communities together. So that's just one example, but we would have a competition in which both of those activities will be happening. Some people don't like that at all. They're like, oh, look at them over there, the meatheads. They don't know how to lift. And the other people are like, oh, okay, that's why you do it like that. And you really start to see people's eyes open and the kind of light bulb moments go off, and see that, hey, we support anyone that's doing something positive with the kettlebell, period. It doesn't matter how they're using it. If they have a positive movement with the kettlebell, it could be freaking, all I do is paint kettlebells. Great, we support you.
Yeah.
It's not, it's an
It
all
doesn't matter.
inclusive
It's anybody
community.
it's anybody in the culture.
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, you built this. That's really what it is. You just connected to everybody on the vertical line. That anybody who
every
was thinking
single
about
person.
fitness, anybody
Yeah.
who cared about fitness, anybody who was super extreme about fitness. You had my dad's side, my side, your side. It didn't really matter, and that's you engage that, and you just create a community, and that's people really want to connect. Did you find your business during COVID when fitness was so challenged? Did you find a huge spike in business because of everybody at home gyms? My brother was very smart. He owns a powerlifting gym. He rented his equipment to people in the home.
Yeah.
It was genius. And he kept open. He stayed open, and he actually expanded during COVID. He was like the only gym that actually expanded during COVID.
Yeah, we were like the big I told you so to every single person in the fitness space, because our original plan was to never have a physical footprint. So our physical footprint would be to partner with larger gym chains, bring in Kettlebell Kings classes, equipments, bring our brand in as a bonus to their physical space, versus us trying to create our own physical space, whether that's a store or a workout facility. that led to COVID happening and us already kind of being a completely remote digital entity that just completely took advantage of that situation. So we were already big before COVID, and all COVID really did was help us sell the rest of our inventory for that year.
It's amazing.
But it came with its own problems, right? So you had a bunch. You had immediately after quarantine was announced. 20 minutes later, all of our inventory was gone. But then you had the ports. You had the ports clogged, right?
Yeah.
So the ports were extremely clogged, and then not to mention containers. Like to ship a container from here or from China, I should say, was around 4,000 at the time, and immediately after that, by the end of the year, it was around 20,000 to ship that same container, and that's per container. So we don't have those types of margins, and so those are types of things, the types of problems we had to deal with. There was a lot of price gouging during that time period, so companies were doubling, tripling their prices just because they could, which we didn't end up doing that. But ultimately, I think it just brought awareness to the home fitness space. So to your point earlier about like you don't have equipment at home, the percentage of people before COVID or the percentage of people that had equipment at home before COVID is drastically different than it is after COVID. So
Yeah,
now everyone has that kind of secondary plan, even if they don't work out at home, they at least have something at home. Should COVID happen or should they not be able to get to the gym, they have something to fall back on.
Yeah, I was a part of it. I was an Equinox member for years, for like 5-6 years before COVID. Then all of a sudden, and expensive gym, great equipment, the whole 9 yards, just a good vibe, a pretty good vibe, not great. And then all of a sudden COVID hit and I started working out at home, and we did all these like virtual classes, and we would like, my dad had a trainer that was a terrible trainer, but he would do like virtual, like one-on-one or group sessions, like while he was like in bed. It was like ridiculous. But all of a sudden that got us more involved. Then when COVID ended, and then the gyms reached out, like Equinox reached out, I was like, no, I'm good. Like I have a gym in my building. I have some equipment at home. Like I don't really need you guys anymore. Like I don't, like it's just kind of over. It changed my whole perspective. Like I've never really gone back to a large chain like that since.
Yeah, but I think also like I experienced, I mean, Yair is right. I had this trainer, I'm not going to mention his name in case he comes after me. He actually gave me COVID afterwards, but he would be we would be virtual, and it would be, poor. Like it's, and then he would have his group, and he opened up his own gym in his garage, and I would go there and it'd be like 6-7 people there and basically ignored. So, and because of that, I needed to have a better experience. Mm-hmm. Right? Because you're in your house all day long and you're not really, you don't have the same activity levels that you had before. So you need to be more active exercise wise. So you need to adjust to that. And like Yair was saying, then after, so I found a real trainer, started working out, at my son's gym. And then Retro reached out to me and I says, I'm not going to go back to Retro. I'm already, and I think what you're saying is true. Like all of this, all working out is routine and habit. So you get it. I'm very disciplined. I like to go 3 times a week because I'm afraid if I don't go, then I'll stop going completely.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that'll be the last time you work out.
Yeah. So I don't want to take a chance on that, except I have an excuse when I travel. So then like Yair exposed me, but like Retro called me up and I'm not interested in going back to that.
So I mean, it's also and I'm just unpacking kind of what you're saying in terms of business wise. First, you're saying that you built this internal community through guerrilla marketing. Like people just they start a business, they're overcapitalized, and they're well positioned to do well, and then they just throw money at like ad tech and like all this other ads. Crap. Yeah. But they don't really build a community. You did the buy-in first from the ground, and then you went up. Now, when you spend money, people are like, "Oh, this is already a cool community, and there's a lot more to do." Your margins also were tight, which is really cool. When you were saying that, that blew me away, because there's the battle of, when you're a community brand, there's the battle of, are they just doing this for the money or are they just doing it for the community? So you have like Spartan, for example, is a perfect brand that has that vibe. Either it's very community, but they're also making a lot of money. There's brands like Costco, for example, is also the owner of Costco. The owner of Costco is not even a billionaire. So that's why people have such a tie into Costco, because they don't they're not gouging their clients and their customers. But then when you go to some of these other brands, all of a sudden they're billionaires in the city, Christie's and things like that. So you get that battle. How are you able to navigate that very fine line between community and profit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're spot on with your analysis. It's difficult to do, but I think when you start off and you don't know a lot, that's the easiest time to really throw everything into the community. So like in the first year or two, we didn't expect anybody to buy our kettlebells, because why would they? Like, who are we for you to buy our kettlebells? You know, like if you bought our kettlebells, we're super appreciative. I used to hand deliver kettlebells to anyone in like a 20-mile radius.
I love
So
that.
I'm super appreciative if you did, but at the same time, we knew
For
we needed
$100, I don't see how it's worth it.
Well, at the time, that used to be our most profitable thing. If one of us could go from the warehouse to drop it off in Austin, we used to love that.
Yeah, you go there.
But
I spent more on gas than I made on this kettlebell. I mean,
It's 160 pounds.
you got to have the vision. We knew it was going to get reviews. We knew that person would be a lifelong fan. It was such great social content at the time. People couldn't believe it. They ordered a kettlebell at 2:00 that day, and then I dropped it off at 5:30 after I'm leaving the warehouse. They were just ecstatic. Like it was social media gold. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah.
so I love when I order something and I get it the same day. It's like unbelievable.
People love also on our side, just to give a plug to Klyman Financial. People also love they go, well, I booked a time on your calendar. Who are you going to talk to? Oh, you're going to talk to a Klyman. Like there's nobody else. Like you're not going like we can. There's a lot of ways that you can scale it, but we've scaled our business that me and my dad can be front facing in front of clients, working with clients every single day. They don't even realize that there's a whole 10, 15 people behind us that are actually supporting us, but they just get so much personalized attention that they're not just being pawned off. And that's really what you did. And that's why, like, you should see the community. They love us. We did an event 2 nights ago. We hosted Michael Rappaport, the comedian. We did a live podcast with Michael Rappaport. There was 550 people. And so far the views on Instagram in under 2 days has been over 80,000 views on Instagram alone. Wow. Like it's insane.
But it's also like what you're saying. They email us, they text us, whatever. Yeah. We get almost an immediate response. You can't beat that. And I mean, we're Sabbath observant. I don't know if I ever told you this yet, Yair. So I had one guy. He emailed me like after my Sabbath came in, and then he says, "Okay, you didn't respond to me right away. It was like 9:00 on Friday night, so you didn't respond to me right away. So then forget it. I mean, what's going to happen then when I need you? Whatever." What can I tell you? What can I tell you?
But I think, and to your point, I think my background in sports gives me a really good understanding, or I guess appreciation for kind of earning it. And I really think I got my partners to buy into that early. The fact that none of us knew anything about kettlebells meant that we were all coming as a student, and we were never going to stop learning and becoming experts. So we spent a lot of time in the first, I would say we weren't even able to pay ourselves for the first 5 years of the company, which I don't recommend to anyone.
A long time.
That is a long time. That is almost impossible.
Yeah, it's going to the gas for the delivery for the kettlebell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had to use my nail salon money for that, but.
Let me ask you about that. Nail salon's profitable, very profitable.
Nail salon, barbershops, those stuff.
That's why I started it, right? I'm literally working in corporate America, looking up how do I jump into entrepreneurship, and I looked into cash flow positive businesses and businesses that could generate cash flow early. I knew I was going to have to focus a lot longer on the larger brand of the online community that I wanted to build. So I started both of them at the same time. Luckily, my girlfriend. She's a very talented nail artist herself. So she went to school while I did the construction and the build out of it. And by the time she finished school, we were ready to open.
You physically did the construction and build out?
Yeah, my background is I was a project manager for a construction company right out of college, and I did construction. That's probably my favorite job, was doing construction in general.
I'm having some plumbing issues.
It wasn't.
Come in and help.
No, not at all. It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't as lucrative as my next job, which was in oil and gas.
Nice.
But so your girlfriend ran the nail salon.
She did. She was actually a nail tech herself. So she was able to work in actually, she was the talented employee that I had first. And
And
then I
then you
had
bring in more people to
brought
work
in
on
about
the
10 other
nails as you
people
build
to
up your
work underneath her.
clientele in
Yeah.
Austin. In Austin.
Yep. In Austin. Yeah. And then I did the same thing with
She's
building
still
an
your
online
girlfriend?
community.
She's still
Yeah,
your
she
girl?
is. Yeah. Yeah. We're still
Not
together.
even.
Not married yet?
I'm not. I mean, this will bring us into a whole another topic.
This is an intervention, Chad.
Yeah, this is
was
an
not a
intervention.
podcast. This
His
was
girlfriend actually asked us to talk
She
about
actually was like,
Yeah,
it.
that's
And
why
she mentioned about
that's
the
why
time
we
my wife
scheduled
is
you
a
for that.
jeweler,
Yeah.
so she mentioned about the type of ring she wanted.
Yeah.
So
yeah, she
No,
was hanging out
I-
with my wife a lot, and she's just like, let's rip off these people. There's no problem.
I tell people all the time that I feel like American culture has kind of ruined marriage for me. So I'm not necessarily a person that
It's such a beautiful thing.
that
I'm sure
puts
your girlfriend loves
a
hearing your.
puts a lot of weight on
You're
marriage.
such a knight in shining armor. Your girlfriend.
I got to tell you though, my
She knows.
brother's daughter is also in, like, she's with, they have a child together. They're not going to get married, but they're married. I mean, it's done.
His parents never got married.
And they never got married. And even his parents never got married.
Yeah, that's how we are. We've been together now for 13 years, 14 years. Yeah. So yeah, quite a while.
You in?
Yeah, I mean,
do you buy her stuff, or you're still like, hey, you're a girlfriend, split it?
No, not at all. Yeah, that's why I say we have a much better relationship than 99% of the marriages that I know. So I'd like to keep it that way.
You want to see some real love? Check out the David Klyman house. That's a real winner.
There you go.
Of romance and watching movies in different rooms.
I'm really big on family, so
I don't have to be in different rooms. I just have my headphones on.
People kind of take it the wrong way when I say I'm not against marriage, and I really appreciate married couples. To be honest, I think marriage kind of gets in the way of a lot of people's goals. And
100, no question. My wife retired at the ripe age of 28, so I can relate to that.
She met her goals. She found her goals. She got what she wanted.
There you go. Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I got to tell you this. So we're doing like I have two kids, so 2 boys, and there's like a yearbook for the scam that is my son's private school. And in the yearbook, one of the kids write like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And one of the girls writes a shopping mommy. And my wife's like, that's what I wanted to be. I was like, you are that. You literally are that. You go to the store and return. Yeah, all right, let's get back focused. All right, I got 2 questions.
Sure.
Number 1, why is it that there's the athletes that just can't switch over to corporate America? And why is it that the athletes who make so much money can't switch over to just keeping this money for a long period of time?
I can answer that for you. Yeah, it's very obvious.
I'm glad you mentioned that. And that's one of the areas that I actually consult in as well is, I currently, I even mentor and consult in that area. So I mentor the athletes and entrepreneurs from my alma mater, Rice University in Houston. But the struggle, I think, is a lot with the self-awareness and understanding the real world versus the athletic world. Even me, and I use the nail salon as an example, I struggled communicating with every employee at the nail salon. So with the fitness company, it was more similar to what I was used to in terms of getting a team to achieve a difficult task. But the nail salon was completely different. And I think most athletes are going to be in the nail salon situation versus being in the fitness company situation where you're trying to readapt to a playing field that you don't even understand. You think everything that you've learned applies, and it doesn't necessarily. So there are some things that you can, muscle through and outwork people, but there's also things that you need to have in terms of, people skills and putting together teams. So it's more of being a GM and a coach than it is being a star athlete. And most athletes come from being that star athlete where when things hit the fan, I have the ability to do it myself versus kind of I know how to get the problem solved. I know how to put a team together to get the problem solved. I've always seen myself as that person, even when I played sports. I always saw myself as the person
interesting.
that can make people better.
We have a lot of doctors as clients also, and they think they know everything.
Yeah.
And then they go and obviously we're financial advisors and planners, and we'll come in and we're professionals at it. But these doctors, they think that they know much more than we do until they lose like half their net worth.
Yeah, exactly. And they will never not think that, because that's what got them to where they were. That confidence, that risk taking, that, I will put my faculties to the test and on the line day in, day out. Like that doesn't always work. You have to have the self-awareness to know maybe I'm not as good in this in business, or maybe I will never be that good in this, and I need to find somebody that can achieve that. And like I say, I was always that person. I knew I wasn't the fastest person on my. I've never been the fastest person on my team, but I knew how to handle every fast person on the other team. And
Do
I
you know
was the person that put the strategy together.
you know Corey Anderson, Corey Overtime Anderson? He was a
Yeah, yeah,
Bellator champion. So he came on the podcast a while back, and we've had like a bunch of the wrestlers, Kendall Cross, if you're familiar in the wrestling community. But Corey reminds me exactly what you were saying. Like he's like, I'm here to make money, and if I don't know something, I'm getting advisors. Like I'm talking to people, I'm learning, I'm reading books, I'm doing everything I can because I know that if I want to really build generational wealth and build real success and all this other stuff, I need to get out there and learn for myself. And if you're somebody, what I find when people transition, and you said burnout was very smart, when people transition from I am the star athlete and I can outwork everybody, what they do is their goal is to book their calendar one all day long, which is great, and you can sustain that for 3, 4, 5 years, but that ends pretty quickly. And we were advising a client yesterday. He's like, yeah, I feel like I can't get past. I'm making $3 million a year in revenue. I can't get past that. I can't get to the next level. So I said, he's like, I'm working 80 hours a week. I go, why don't you do this? 4 times a day, time block 15 minutes in your schedule. Just put it on your calendar. I do the same thing. My dad does the same thing because he's connected to my calendar, so it pings him. And every single day,
I get annoying, actually, to get that ping.
It is very annoying. So, and then what that does is it doesn't allow you to book people back to back to back to back. And now you have free time, and now you're much more efficient. So it's not the outwork, it's out efficient people.
yeah.
And work smarter, not harder is the concept, but for the athletes, it's a huge thing.
I was gonna say, I even tell people, like, you don't even know how to practice anymore because no one's designed for you a business practice. So what do you do on a day-to-day basis to make yourself a better business professional?
It's very interesting.
You don't know what that is. And what most athletes do is they burn themselves out doing, it's like a person who doesn't have a physical trainer or a personal trainer. If they don't know how to exercise, they just go to the gym, will waste their time for an hour or two until they get to a point where they're tired of doing that and they stop doing it. And you don't have to do that as an athlete, but the egos of an athlete is going to send them down that path 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. Well, you don't see the improvement. I've actually seen, I don't know if I told you this, the last couple of months, I've seen a lot of improvement with my trainer because he knows how to push me forward.
Yep.
If I'm going there, I'm taking the easy way out. I'm going to be lazy. I'm not going to do it's like pushing my arm a certain way or whatever. These subtleties you need a professional for. So it's the same thing with us in finance. There's certain things we're going to see that people are not going to be able to know themselves.
We haven't seen one client that has complained about our fees. Like we say to clients all the time, like if you're going to complain about our fees, then I think you should go somewhere else because if we don't add so much value to and find ways to optimize every dollar, then there's nothing we can do for you. But we just don't have that. That just doesn't exist because you can really fine tune someone if you're a professional and you're able to give somebody a game plan and a strategy. And that's what you're doing with your consulting.
So I had a client yesterday, him and his wife, they came on, young couple. They're not huge clients, but we don't care. We're somebody to help. And they were just saying, we wanted to go on a trip to Israel, couldn't afford it. We want to go to Florida. How do we do this? And I says, you can't spend money you don't have. I don't think she was on top. I don't think that she was on it, but I don't think he liked hearing this. But this is what we have to do. We have to come up and give that mirror of reality to them. And, the last thing I suggested to them was, make a separate account, put in $200 a month. When you've got that accumulation, then you go. You don't spend money that you don't have. And people don't realize that. It's too easy, especially in these days. Here's my credit card, especially for these athletes. They're used to having unlimited money. Now they're not making anymore because they've retired or whatnot, but yet they still have that same habit.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a huge another aspect of it is, I tell people all the time, it's difficult to understand, but I think it's important to put in perspective whether you want to have ownership for something or whether you see yourself as an employee waiting on a paycheck. And most athletes are employees. They portray themselves as, entrepreneurs or businessmen, but they're mostly employees. That's where Their revenue comes from someone else's idea and business model, not their business model. And so I try to help athletes generate their own business model. Like, what is your business model? This paycheck from the NFL is just one revenue stream so that you can actually build a business model. You don't have one currently.
Yeah. No,
and I don't even think they make it to that point. Most of them don't anyway.
I agree. We have some NFL players also, and our goal is like we're yelling at them all the time. It's like, take money off the table. This is only going to be a little bit of time. Put in an account that you can't that you have access to, all this compliance stuff, but you can always put, like, you need to take money off the table, because if it's right in front of your face, you're going to spend it.
I also find, like, with the athletes, we'll find like they have a lot of hangers on, and they, they'll just blow money. They have somebody they knew from, kindergarten or something, and this guy's useless, and they pay him like $20,000 a month or something.
The artist
just waste money.
Yeah. And that's another good example. And that's what I mean when I say you have to be able to tell those people that you don't have that luxury. And it's easier to tell those people you don't have that luxury when you see yourself correctly as an employee. You can't give someone else a piece of your paycheck. If you go out and start a new business and that business generates $20,000 a month and this person supports that new revenue stream, then by all means, pay them what they're worth. But if you can't create those situations, you can't use your paycheck to do that. And that's one of the hardest obstacles that I have with anyone, trying to get them to just overcome that idea that this paycheck is your individual paycheck. You need to put the majority of that aside, and then you need to figure out how you're going to invest in some business model, some revenue stream outside of this that's going to last longer than your sports career.
Exactly.
So, Chad, you've had such an amazing past and history, but it all comes down to a defining moment in your life, a moment that you can draw from energy, from when things are challenging, when things go really tough and things aren't normal, and when obviously not taking a paycheck for 5 years. It's not like you were raking it in from the nail salon.
I was just thinking that 5 years with no paycheck.
Yeah, like that's real. So what was that defining moment in your life that taught you how to be so resilient, and why you built such resilient riches?
I don't know if it was one in particular. I talk about this in my book. I think sports provided me with so many of what I call micro battles, where you are winning and losing these situations that you put yourself in, and then you're having to come back and fight again. So if I had to kind of boil it down to maybe one moment for me, it would be winning the state championship in high school was huge for me. I come from a very small town. No one really believed that we could win the state championship. We got a new coach my junior year. He believed we could win the state championship. We won it that year. And then my senior year, we went back and ended up losing the state championship game. And that process I talk about in the book really taught me the power of motivation, of branding, of creating a culture, even kind of the type of people that you need to build a network around. There were people that had to be removed from the team in order for the teams to succeed. There were coaches and staff that needed to be removed in order for things to happen. So it wasn't a matter of whether or not we had the potential. It was a matter of whether or not we organized our efforts in the correct way to achieve our goal. And so I kind of took that and I was like, well, I can do hard things in life anytime if I just get the right people in the right place. And I've just find them, motivated people who have the same passion as me. And I've kind of taken that aspect into my business mindset, or into a lot of things I use in business when I'm trying to build a community. Is I'm trying to find those people who really will follow me out of town on a road trip just to watch me play. Like, I'm trying to find that community of people who supports me because they see value in it from a life perspective, not because we've exchanged some type of monetary exchange. That's secondary to me genuinely creating value for.
Those are the meaningful relationships that you develop over time, and that lasts a lifetime.
Yeah. So and I'm actively hunting those with the brand. I'm trying to find those as quickly as possible with every brand that I have. Is who would actually like really, really appreciate and value this. If I could give it to you for free, I would, because I know how much you would value it. That's the type of concept that I try to come up with when I'm looking for business people.
Chad, how can people find you? How can people get connected with you? Give a plug to your new book when it comes out, and a plug to your old book. But I mean, I've loved this conversation. This has been an amazing content, Guerilla content, but really just amazing journey you've had. And I love that we just went into so many experience shares and so many moments that we were able to relate and draw from our past. and you're getting my dad into amazing shape very soon.
Sure. The best place is chadprice.com. I'm on all social channels, but you can find it on chadprice.com as well. I mentioned earlier, I recently started a new podcast, so I'm probably about 6 episodes into the new Fans First podcast. The strategy or the concept that I teach is the fan first concept, and I use that throughout my consulting services or really any business that I'm working with. The new book will be called Fans First. I'm not sure of the subtitle yet. I'm still kind of working on those final details, but you can find my old book, Preparing for Battle. And I say old, it was released in September. It's Preparing for Battle, and it's on Amazon right now.
Nice. Chad, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate you. We really appreciate what you're doing, and we really appreciate how many people you've actually helped with what you're doing, because relieving people of their pain, giving people the chance to exercise, build community, especially during a COVID and post-COVID world where people feel like there's so much darkness in the world. It's exercise is one of those places that are core and strong. And I was working out, and obviously we've been very tied to Israel and the Jewish community. And I was working out this morning with somebody who's Arab, and we were just working out together. I was like, that's really what we need to do. We all just need to work out together, and things we'll get somewhere. It's when people don't have that like inner connection to humanity. I feel
there's very few protests going on in the gym.
Yeah.
Whenever I go, I don't see the protesters there at all.
Yeah. Better ourselves
They're not
together.
stopping me from going on and working out. They're not blocking me from doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so,
not you.
Where are they when you need them?
Yeah.
All right.
But no, I really appreciate you guys having me on, and I definitely will be following you guys on social and checking out a few more of your episodes now that we have had a chance to meet each other in person. Cool. So I appreciate it.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Chad. Thanks for coming on, and thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you on the next one.